He sat at the corner table of the quiet restaurant, his watch gleaming under the dim lights. 5 minutes. That's all he planned to stay. The great Ethan Cole, CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the city, didn't have time for love anymore, or so he thought. But destiny, as it often does, had other plans that night, because 5 minutes later, a woman walked in, laughing at herself as she stumbled slightly at the doorway, and that laughter changed everything. Ethan had agreed to the blind date out of sheer exhaustion. His assistant and sister, Mia, had insisted he needed a life. "You run a billion-dollar company, Ethan, but you don't even know what it is," she'd said. He'd rolled his eyes but given in, just to shut her up. Love wasn't on his agenda. After his last relationship ended in betrayal, he'd built walls so high no one dared to climb them. 5 minutes, he'd promised himself. Smile, nod, and leave. Then she arrived. Her name was Clara Evans. She wasn't glamorous in the way he was used to. No designer dress, no heavy makeup. She wore a simple blue blouse and had her hair tied up in a messy bun, a few strands falling loose as if they refused to be tamed. But what struck him most was her laughter, a warm, genuine, the kind that made even the air around her feel lighter. She spotted him immediately, smiled, and said, "You look like you were just about to bolt." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. Was I that obvious? "Oh, absolutely," she said, chuckling. "You've got that look at it. I'm too busy for this, but I promised someone face." And just like that, he laughed, a real laugh, something he hadn't done in months. The 5 minutes turned into 10, a broken bar, then 30, a broken bar, then 2 hours. Clara wasn't what Ethan expected. She wasn't impressed by his wealth or position. In fact, she seemed almost uninterested in it. When he mentioned his company, she interrupted with a playful smile. "That's cool, but tell me about you. What makes you happy when you're not conquering the business world?" That question hit him harder than he thought. What did make him happy? He couldn't remember the last time he'd thought about that. He told her about his love for old vinyl records, his late father's watch collection, and how he used to sketch as a kid. She listened, truly listened, her eyes soft, her laughter breaking through his stiffness every few minutes. And when she spoke, he found himself leaning in. She was a teacher, not wealthy, not powerful, but passionate about helping children believe in themselves. "Every time a student learns to love who they are," she said, "it feels like winning the lottery." Ethan stared at her, realizing she was everything his life had been missing: authenticity, kindness, warmth. Weeks passed, and what started as one date became many. Ethan found excuses to see her, bringing her coffee at school, waiting for her after work, listening to her stories about her students. She teased him for being too serious, and he teased her for always laughing. But then came the challenge. One morning, a tabloid photo of them surfaced. Billionaire CEO dating small-town teacher. The headline screamed. Clara's school started receiving unwanted attention. Parents whispered. Her principal hinted that her relationship was becoming a distraction. She called Ethan that night, voice trembling. "I don't want this to ruin your image," she said softly. "My image?" he asked, almost laughing. "Clara, I don't care about that." "But I do," she said, tears in her voice. "My kids look up to me. I can't let them think I'm someone who chases money or fame." "Yeah, broken bar. I think we should stop seeing each other." For a moment, silence filled the line. Ethan's throat tightened. He'd built empires, closed deals worth millions. Bet he'd never felt this helpless. "Clara," he whispered, "you're the only person who's ever made me forget about time. You're not just part of my world, you are my world." She hung up before he could say more. For days, he didn't sleep. Every room in his penthouse felt empty. Every hour dragged by. Then one morning, he made a decision that shocked everyone. He resigned as CEO. The news went viral. Ethan Cole steps down without explanation. The headlines read. He drove to her school quietly, parking far from the entrance. He waited until she came out after class, carrying her papers and coffee. When she saw him, her eyes widened in surprise. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to stay calm. He smiled faintly. "I realized something. I've spent years building a company but never built a life. I don't want to lose the one person who makes me feel alive." Clara's eyes softened. but she shook her head. Ethan, you can't just give up your career. He stepped closer. I didn't give it up. I just changed priorities. You taught me that success means nothing if you can't share it with someone who makes your soul laugh. And there it was, that laughter again. She tried to hide her tears, but they fell anyway. You're crazy, she whispered. Maybe, he said, smiling, but I'm crazy about you. A year later, their laughter filled a small beachside cafe. Tilda copyright at their favorite place, where time still didn't matter. Ethan had opened a foundation supporting underprivileged schools, and Clara ran it by his side. She often joked, I only went on that blind date because my friend dared me, he'd reply. And I only stayed because you laughed. Then he'd look at her, eyes warm and steady, and say, best 5 minutes I ever broke.